Hi, my name is Miriam, and I will be addressing intersectionality through the analysis of an artifact. I want to start off by loosely defining what intersectionality is. So intersectionality is basically the study of the experiences of people based on their collective and intersectional identities. So it's the intersection of their gender, their religion, their race, their socioeconomic status, their class, things like that. And understanding that those experiences, the experiences of each individual is shaped by the different pieces of their identities and how they all intersect and relate with each other. Now, initially, intersectionality was first coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, and in Welby and Strid 2012, they talk about how Crenshaw defined structural inequality as something concerned with the intersection of unequal social groups. And Crenshaw specifically talks about the experiences of the intersection of Black women, of gender and race, and the experiences of Black women. And that's because Black women experienced life differently than Black men who had the privilege of being men, and white women who had the privilege of being women. Because Black women and those two different parts of their identity, their gender and their race, were both a part of social groups that faced inequality. And so they faced even more inequality because of their complex and intersection of their identities. And that's initially where intersectionality started off with. And in Welby and Strid in 2012, they actually critique Crenshaw and some of the other theorists who came after Crenshaw by talking about how intersectionality should go beyond just understanding the experiences of people based solely on the experiences of people from unequal social groups and the intersection of those identities. They believe that intersectionality can go further in helping us understand power dynamics by understanding the intersection of identities of people with different privileges. So for example, the intersection of being a man, of being white, of coming from an upper middle class background can help us understand that power dynamic and how those collective identities can really uphold the power dynamic in a different way compared to white women who come from middle class backgrounds, not holding that same level of power because they're still limited by their gender. And so Welby and Strid say that intersectionality should go further than that and acknowledge the power dynamics. There are also positive explanations of intersectionality. So in Carbato et al. 2013, they actually talk about how intersectionality can help us, can help people from different liberation movements come together to understand that the struggles that they're facing are actually more similar to each other than not. And that's because, they argue that on an intersectional lens, it can be shown that based on any given issue between people of different perspectives and privileges, that there's this connection and shared experience of discrimination and marginalization. So for example, somebody who is both gay and Black, they have that intersection when it comes to these oppression, when it comes to these movements to fight oppression, because there is a gay liberation movement and a Black liberation movement, and somebody can be a part of both. And this helps, intersectionality helps us understand that these struggles are intertwined because people can experience discrimination from a complexity of their different identities. And it's not just specific to one sole identity. And this is like what puts that understanding that your different identities aren't any more important than one another, but all are equal because they have that ability to influence how you're treated in life. There are also other considerations that were taken into effect. So in Shom 2014, on page 57 of her book, she talks about how people, look at the Obamas as this Black family who experienced life positively because, President Obama was in the White House. And people might look at that and assume that just based on their race, that Black people in general live the life and experience life through the same way as the Obamas. But intersectionality comes into play by helping us understand that the experiences of Black people, and specifically, aren't monolithic. So the Obamas come from an upper middle class background, which makes their experiences as Black people different from those who are Black and experience life through the lens, through being a part of the lower middle class. And that's where intersectionality comes in and helps us understand that each experience is morphed and is specific to how people will walk through life based on the different complexities of their identities, and not just based on one thing like their race or their gender. And so my artifact for analysis is actually of the character of Adina El-Amin from the TV show The Bold Type, which aired on Freeform in 2017. And in this video, Adina gives us a quick glimpse of her complex backgrounds. And this is important in acknowledging that her experiences in life and the intersection of all of her identities are different from that of her friend Kat, which we will see in the next video.
What this is about. I'm scared.
No, of course not. I didn't say that word.
My Twitter bio literally reads, proud Muslim lesbian.
Yeah, but that's only a few thousand followers.
So as we can see from this statement made by Adina, she is a Muslim, she is a lesbian, she is a woman, and in other regards, she's also an immigrant from Iran. So she has all of these complex pieces to her identity that really make her a victim of social inequality, because she's marginalized in many different ways based on her identity. She doesn't have privilege. She doesn't have much privilege when it comes to her different identities, because all of them are marginalized in their own way. Her religion in America isn't one of the dominant religions, and Muslims face discrimination. People in America also face discrimination based on their sexual orientation if they're not straight, which Adina is not in this clip. So all of that is important when acknowledging the differences and how the different experiences people will face based on their identities, and how intersectionality can help us explain those differences. In this next clip, you see that Kat starts to understand and realize that Adina does walk through life in a different way than her, because a man accosts Adina and he specifically singles her out and doesn't also attack Kat, because Kat is a Muslim, because she wears the hijab, and he sees that, and he hears her speak a different language on the phone that isn't American. And even though Kat doesn't, and since Kat doesn't do that, her experiences and her treatment will be different. Even though she is a Black woman and she faces discrimination, this man isn't going to attack her. He's going to attack Adina, because to him, that intersection of her identities is problematic to him. And this clip really shows how the experiences of Muslim women who are also immigrants and who speak languages other than English in America face discrimination, walk through life in a different way than, more than other types of American women, such as Kat, who get ignored on the street, compared to the Muslim woman who gets singled out and attacked.
Okay, admit it.
Why don't you speak English, bitch?
What did you just say?
I said, I think your towel-head friend here should speak English or go back where she came from.
Go. Okay.
So in this clip, that you can quickly see how Kat is shell-shocked at how Adina is being treated, yet Adina doesn't seem as fazed by what this man said. She just wants to walk away from him. And that clip really highlights how understanding the intersection of people's different identities makes them walk and experience life differently. It's one thing for someone to say, this is what I experienced, and talk about how their identity is a reason why. And for someone else to actually acknowledge and see that that happened. So in this clip, Kat comes to realize that in life in America, she does not receive the same type of treatment as Adina does. And that is because of the differences in their identities. as women, and Adina, being a visible Muslim, and Kat not being a visible Muslim for this in this instance. And this is what intersectionality actually helps us understand the different experiences people face. And that's why this study is important in the grand scheme of understanding the social structures within America and why they are the way they are. Thank you.